So should you go for a freehold 999 years landed versus a 99 years landed? So we get this question a lot. Are 99 years landed worth investing in? Now, take note, there's this thing called EB465. This is a framework that I have developed over the years after studying the behavior of Ballas curve. All right? EB465 means exit before 65 years balance lease. Now, the rationale is because the Ballas curve, once you hit past 60, basically your next buyer cannot use the full CPF to pay for the whole installment unless they have hit certain level of valuation limit and stuff like that. All right, so basically there's a limitation in terms of the valuation limit that will result in your next buyer not being able to utilize the entire CPF to pay for the monthly installment. And this is a concern that some people have, but that does not mean that there's no buyers for this landed property, because older landed properties, they attract a new group of buyers, which are buyers that wants to go for this as a pivot home. What do I mean by pivot home? I'll explain it later. Or this is their retirement home. But that will mean that out of all the buyers group that I want to attract, I am basically attracting a lesser and a smaller audience, because these are groups that are in their winter season. They want to retire. They want a big space with a low quantum entry price, which is why sometimes old landed, they still can sell. They still have a target audience that want to buy. If you look at some of the HDB landed as well, a lot of people that sold off their freehold landed, they pay off a HDB landed, they pay off a 99 years landed property, all right? So basically there will still be buyers, it's just that your audience is lesser. Now, when you have a younger property, you have a bigger audience at the base. You attract more people, but naturally speaking, the quantum is bigger, all right? So when it comes to a landed property, what we want to do is that if I want to decide between a freehold / 999 versus a 99 years landed, and let's say if I look at this 99 years landed, it has maybe balanced 70 years, 60 years, or maybe 50 over years. I need to understand one thing, is that the moment it hits zero, the value will be zero. All right, there's already a existing case that has happened, is Enclave in Geylang Lorong 3, I think. The plot has reached zero. It has been returned to SLA. All right, the next plot that's going to happen is at Fuyong Estate. Fuyong Estate is beside Rail Mall, is in District 21, is behind the entire Rail Mall shops, and that entire zone has a balance lease of 10 over years. Now, you can still get a landed property there for $1 million for a big plot of land, 5,000 square feet. But it's clear enough to understand that they're already at this stage with maybe balance 15 years, and the value is depreciating, and it will hit zero once it hits zero, all right? So basically, once you understand this concept, then you can plan your strategy. Now, if you are having like a range right now of maybe like $2.5 million to $3 million, then by all means, if this is a strategy and you don't want to put in, let's say $5.5 million into a freehold landed, but you have that $5.5 million, what you can do is that you can deploy what we call a pivot home strategy. So meaning you get to stay in a big space for your kids, with your family, pivot home, and then you deploy another $2.5 million to $3 million for your investment properties. All right, so basically this can be a residential condo, it can be 3 industrial properties, this can be your pivot home, and you go in with the mindset that this will not make money. So basically, this is not a capital play, this is a preference play. So it is really for your needs, it is not for investment. If it does appreciate, then we treat it as a bonus. But we're really hunting for space. This is where you make your money. But for those that basically don't want to, let's say, have that pivot strategy, some people, they just want a bit more longevity. They straight away go for freehold 999, and they go for this strategy, $5.5 million, $6 million, let it appreciate, then exit, re-enter. All right, so there are different strategies, but the most important strategy when it comes to a 99 years landed is to understand appreciation we treat it like a bonus. Because there's always this rule of thumb, is that people who are thinking about buying a 4-bedder condo, they will start to think about 99 years landed with 4 to 5 bedrooms. They will start to think also about penthouses, cluster houses. Then they start to think about inter-terrace that is freehold or semi-D that is freehold. So there's always an audience at this range with $2.5 to $3.5 million because they don't want to go up to $5 million. They want to stay at this range. So there's an audience for every range. So with that, I hope that it grants you clarity with this two main framework, basically EB465, to understand that value does depreciate with the Ballas curve, understanding the psychology of options, and of course, most importantly, the pivot strategy works very well for some families as well. See you on the next episode.